So you believe the game? He's a better rapper and he make better music.
Listen, for me, I like that style. I like the style of how he rap. I like his vocal tone. You know what I mean? I like his vocal register, you know. And, to keep it real, I never met Kendrick. I met the game one time and he was mad.
That's my point, bro. I told you, yo. This is my point with these dudes, bro. I'm telling you, bro. All right, man. Torture Talk after hours. Lord Jamal at it again, saying some crazy things. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Let's get into the content.
You and Kendrick, what's going on between both of y'all? I heard that you made a comment about how the game is a better rapper than Kendrick, and a lot of people got mad. Like, what happened?
Oh my goodness. All right, so we on my show, right? And people do the super chat or whatever. So somebody sends a super chat and they ask me, who do you think, I think they said, who do you think has done more for LA? Kendrick, the game or Kendrick?
All right, so let me stop him right there. My problem with most East Coast dudes is they don't never really have all the facts. And East Coast dudes tend to just be about the East Coast when it comes to hip hop music. The East Coast supersedes everything to them. Doesn't matter. They'll always say that this East Coast person is better than everybody. So they don't really particularly go into the depth and the history of the West Coast. They know the surface level guys, Easy E, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Ice T, but they don't really go into the depth of it. Now, for him, getting asked that question, it should definitely had piqued his interest to try to find out what is more, who's done more, because you might think that the game has done more on a surface level, but come on, bro. You can't be serious.
And they said, and who do you like better? Now they're asking me this question. The topic had nothing to do with this where we was on there. He just asked me this out of the blue. So off the cuff, I'm thinking, who's done more for LA? I don't know. I'm just going through my Rolodex. I'm thinking, well, Game's been around a little longer, right? I've heard of him maybe trying to.
It's my point right there. He just made my point. Like, they usually just look at surface level things, like who's done more for LA. And honestly, I wouldn't even have spoke on that. I'd have been like, well, I can't speak on that. I'm not from LA. Like, ask somebody from LA, like, or somebody from the West Coast. I can't speak on that. Like, that's what I would have said. But Lord Jamal doing Lord Jamal things, like, as usual.
Intercede and some beefs and stuff like that. But again, I don't know. I'm not from LA like that. So now I'm going by whose music do I like more? For me, it's the game. So
I'm not one to get mad at people's opinion. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all. I don't really get mad at people's opinions, but bro, I can almost bet you that Lord Jamal, he only saying that because he just knows probably the game a little more. But I could bet you he don't really know any Game's albums. A lot of y'all don't know a lot of Game albums. You know what I'm saying? Like, then when you say you listen to music more, Game music more, you probably talking about This Is How We Do, or the other song with Hate It or Love It. because I can almost guarantee you it's only probably one other song that most of y'all can name is One Blood. Outside of that, like, what other game song could you really name? And all of them have features except for One Blood. That's it. The other one, I believe it was 0 to 100. I believe that's with Game with Drake. But that's it. I believe it's 0 to 100. But still in all, that's what I'm talking about. Like, most of these East Coast dudes, they don't really know. They'll just say because Game to them, Kendrick Lamar is a commercial artist and Game is a underground sort of a street artist in a way. Like, it's unbelievable.
So I say The Game. The Game was my answer. Suddenly, people flip it and bounce it that and I said, I'm sorry, I also said, and I asked the question, I said, wasn't Kendrick like a nerd rapper that kind of turned into a gangster or something like that? Like, just kind of ask.
Again, see what I mean? It's like they ask these fake questions, but they really rhetorical questions. It's like, okay, wasn't Kendrick like, you ain't asking because you genuinely want to know. You're asking because you're making a statement but trying to put it in a question form. It's like, get the fuck out of here, dog. I can see right through that. I know exactly what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is what East Coast dudes do. This is what they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, for you to say wasn't Kendrick a a nerd rapper turned gangster, that just lets me know that you really don't know Kendrick and you don't know his discography. But the crazy part is most of Kendrick's discography would probably line up with Brand Nubians. like it's so crazy. Most of his discography, I would say a good 90% of his discography would line up with Lord Jamal's ideologies. But for some reason, this is what I mean. Like, sometimes a lot of these rappers, they be all over the place. It's crazy to me how I don't know. It's just crazy.
The question, because I'm telling you, I'm not as educated on Kendrick as everybody else is. Like, I think he's a good rapper. I think he raps good, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. And I like West Coast rap, but again, y'all could call me an old head, whatever the fuck you want to call me, but I just have a certain taste in my hip hop, right?
My point exactly about East Coast dudes. Just made that point. This is exactly what they do. This is what they do. They're so close-minded that they consider things an acquired taste to them. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm not against people's opinions. I'm not. But sometimes I think people, they have an opinion about something that they don't really know about. That to me is not an opinion. That's just not being educated. And he kind of mentioned that. But it's like, you'll say he's a good rapper, but if you are supposed to be this hip hop historian, like you say you are, right? And you are one of the, by default, one of the legendary artists, you know what I'm saying? Because you have to admit, even though Lord Jamal wasn't the best in Brand Nubians, he is the one that lasts the longest, which is wild to me. I don't know if you think about it. Like, he's bigger than all the other two, right now. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's just crazy to see that if you're supposed to be a hip hop historian or somebody you're supposed to be deep into it. Like, it's a lot of rappers I don't like personally, but I can acknowledge that their song, I ain't gonna say personally, but it's a lot of rappers that I particularly don't really care for, but I can admit that they have pretty good music and their songs are good and their albums are good. You know what I'm saying? Even if I say, well, it ain't for me, but I could say, well, that's good. Like, I'll give you an example. Denzel Curry. I'm not a real big Denzel Curry fan. I'm not. But I can admit that he is pretty good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not a fan of his music, but I can admit that he's good. You know what I'm saying? Like dudes like this, they can't admit that. You know what I'm saying? They can't because it's kind of like your favorite versus the best. They clump everything together. You know what I'm saying? They can't separate like your favorite and the best. They can't separate it. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be one. It's like if I say Joe Buttons is my favorite rapper, they'll say, "Well, you saying he's better than Eminem?" Like, no, I'm saying he's my favorite rapper. You know what I'm saying? But they can't separate the two.
And again, if I had to pick, for me, I'd rather hear just the type of beats that the game chooses and his voice tone and the way he raps. Like I could just tell he studied my era, kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, and I like that about him. That's it. But yeah, I did say, and I did ask the question, wasn't he kind of like a nerd rapper that, was kind of gangster? Because the way he raps was, to me, is kind of like nerdy. And I thought he was in a certain like lane.
Again, you have to clarify what you consider nerdy, because from what I'm hearing from Kendrick, I never heard Kendrick rap nerdy. Like, and another thing too about old heads and East Coast dudes, because your vocab is pretty high, and you're a little bit intellectual, they think you're a nerd. It's like a lot of old heads, and it's just not even East Coast, just old heads in general. Old heads think because, or old head street dudes, I would say, a lot of old head street dudes, they think because if you speak a little bit proper, and you, how would I say this? You know a little something, and you're a little educated on things, they think you're a nerd. They don't think that you can actually tote those things, even if you know something. I mean, I'll be honest with you, most of at least the ones I know, a lot of the gangsters are intelligent. They're not just intelligent, they're what they call them, intelligent hoodlums. You know what I'm saying? And him, I don't know if I would say Lord Jamal is an intelligent hoodlum, but I would say he knows a little something. But for him to make a statement about Kendrick and don't really even know is wild to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some of these people, I think that they give these opinions because it's hot button topics, but at the same time, I don't think that they actually do enough research on people before they give an opinion. So that's just my opinion, but your opinion is flawed because you ain't given. All right, I'll give it to you like this. I don't know how locks on doors are created, right? But I could come out and say, man, this lock sucks. Like, for me, if I knew how it was created, I probably wouldn't have brought that lock, and I probably would have said, you know what I'm saying? And I know it's a bad example, but I'm just trying to make a point. Like, sometimes you don't know something for you to give an opinion fully on it, and I think that that's what he does. It's kind of like I'll give it to you like a better one. Movies, right? If I see a preview of a movie, I could say, yeah, that movie sucked, but I didn't even watch the whole thing. How would I know? You know what I'm saying? It's judging the book by its cover. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I should have just said that, but either or.
Whatever. But then it seems lately, to me, it seems like in the videos I see more and more like almost, accepting like a gangster lifestyle. Now, I understand that in LA, not everybody's a gangbanger. That people grow up, amongst gangbangers, but they still are living a regular life. Like, I get it. Like, we do that type of shit in New York too.
We don't. No, we don't. No, we do not do that on the East Coast. No. It's totally different on the West Coast. It's not. See, a lot of y'all don't really know about the West Coast. I've been doing a lot of studying about the West Coast. A lot of y'all don't know about the West Coast. West Coast is totally different from the East Coast. It's not the same. A lot of y'all say, okay, you grew up around gangsters in New York. Yeah, it's not gang affiliation though. It's totally different than being in gang affiliate. It's kind of like being born into something. If you was born in New York and you were born around street dudes, doesn't mean that you are affiliated like you where you were born into the gang lifestyle. So like in California, in Cali, most people are born into it and they are a part of it regardless. It's not just like he's minimizing it to the point where he's trying to compare it to is like dudes in New York are the same as dudes in Cali. No, they're not. It's totally different. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be honest with y'all, there is a lot of cutthroat dudes on the East Coast more than on the West Coast from my experience. You know what I'm saying? From what I know. And a lot of dudes are out for self on the East Coast more than the West Coast. And it's that, and I know people don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. That East Coast bias and the East Coast hate, they also hate on each other. If you from Jersey, if you from Philly, if you from New York, most of the time, typically either you lean on one side. Like if you from, let's just say North Jersey, you from North Jersey, it's not the same as you from South Jersey. Totally different. Some South Jersey dudes don't have an identity. Most of them are either they like Philly dudes. Now Philly have their own identity. You know what I'm saying? But you can see the remnants of Philly rubbing off in South Jersey. Now New York, same thing. A lot of East Coast dudes from New York and New Jersey in the top are kind of the same. You know what I'm saying? North Jersey dudes, Jersey City, Newark. Oh, not really Newark, but Jersey City, and not really Patterson. Jersey City, Patterson, Newark. It's kind of the same as New York dudes in a way, not all the way, but in a way. So that's what it is. But when you go to Cali, it's totally different. It's not the same. Like I wish people stop comparing East Coast to West Coast, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying like it's the lifestyle is different in LA. It's like you're born into it versus you're just around some dudes. Like you're not born into it because all of them dudes can change. They could literally stop being thugs. And I hate to say this, but some people can't stop being what they were born into, if that makes sense.
Like, not everybody is, affiliated with some shit. Some people are just regular dudes, but that don't mean they suckers or whatever the case may be. So I guess me saying that, people now took it as, oh, what are you talking about? You need to shut the fuck up. You're from New York. You an old head from New York. You shouldn't even be talking about the West Coast. Keep Kendrick's name out your mouth. Da, 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 da. And I'm just like, yo, like, relax. Like, it's not that serious. Nobody's trying to diss the man. And then I just see the headlines just keep changing as to what I said. And I was just like, wow, this is how, snowballs into some other shit where it's like a game.
But that's my point. Some people feel like East Coast dudes shouldn't be speaking on West Coast things that happen on West Coast. And if you ask the question, but you elaborated and said, I thought rhetorically, I thought he was a nerd rapper. I thought he was a nerd turned gangster. That's disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? That's disrespectful. And I see Lord Jamar is not stupid. He's not a stupid dude. He's very intelligent when it comes to manipulating conversations. I see in this conversation, he kind of bounces back and forth, kind of acting as if like he didn't say something disrespectful, telling people to relax. Like, bro, for you to say, I thought he was a nerd, turned gangster, that's disrespectful. Because you're basically saying, like, okay, what if he was a nerd? So, and he turned gangster? Then you're basically saying he's fake. That's basically what you're saying. In the grand scheme of things, you're saying like, oh, he's fake. Game is real. He's fake. That's what the ball. When people hear it, that's what they hear. They hear you saying that, not that you're saying like, if you said, listen, there's some thugs, there's some nerd thugs. You said that, maybe we'd have cleared it up. Or if you just said, I don't really know too much about Kendrick. I do know that he's a great artist, or he's a great artist that I just don't really like that. If you'd have said something like that, then it'd have been something different. But you try to elaborate and put your own little twist on it and call him a nerd, as if being a nerd is a bad thing. And that's another thing that's a whole nother can of beans I really don't want to open. But that's another thing that I notice about us as Black people. We always seem to talk down about nerds and people who are intelligent in our community. We never want to uplift those type of people. But let's keep it going.
A telephone, it starts out with one thing, and then it ends up a whole nother thing. Now people are saying that I'm saying that he's not part of LA culture and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, y'all motherfuckers could really spin a story. And then everybody, felt it was there.
Well, essentially, that's what you are saying. If you're saying he's a nerd / gangster, I mean, I'm not saying that there's no nerds in California, but you basically saying that he's fake. And a lot of them wouldn't consider themselves fake. They wouldn't consider themselves being how would I say it, in the reverse, sheep in wolf clothing. You know what I'm saying? Or you know what I'm saying? Like that. A lot of them wouldn't say that. To me, sometimes I think East Coast dudes need to just shut the fuck up. That's it. And when it comes to West Coast, just don't speak. Especially because you're from the East Coast, and we know how the East Coast gets down when it comes to West Coast. East Coast hates on the West Coast a lot. Like, stop it, bro. You'd never say if I ask you who is the greatest rapper of all time, you would never see somebody from the West Coast. You'd never say that. Everybody would be the top 3 would be from the East Coast. If I say who's the top 3, you just say that from the jump. And you would have an argument. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but that's what it would be. And the West Coast would be the same thing. But the West Coast, I think the West Coast don't really hate on the East Coast like that. They really don't. But let's keep it going.
Their duty to go and make a live about it and discuss it and chastise me and wave their finger at me for some shit that I didn't even say. And it's like, I just got to the point where it was like, you know what, go ahead, chastise me, I'm not even gonna reply to this. I know what I said, and it was nothing of what y'all turned it into. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Everybody has their taste. Everybody has their opinion. And again, I don't know why my opinion seems to upset people and put them in an uproar, but it does. So
the reason why your opinion upsets people and put them in an uproar because people look to you. People look at you as a controversial figure now. So, I mean, some people would say okay, but it is what it is. That's why your opinion is polarizing, because you say some things that are unpopular, and people gravitate towards people like that because they want to understand and why and know why. But a lot of times people like Lord Jamal, they never really give an excuse or an explanation of why they say the things they say. They just say it. But then when they're asked, well, why do you feel this way, or who told you this, they don't really give a full explanation. Like, he still hasn't given an explanation of why he believes Kendrick is a nerd rapper. The whole time, he just, like I said, he's a good manipulator in the conversation. He, not one time did he give the reason why. He didn't say, well, the reason why I think he's a nerd rapper is because I listened to this song and he said some things that I think you had to be a little bit educated and not really street to know, like anything. But he didn't do that. Again, this is what I mean by sometimes people's opinions shouldn't be validated, because for me, opinions, and I know people say that's just my opinion, but for me, if you have an opinion, you have to have an excuse of why you have that opinion. It has to come with that. I don't care what nobody says. It has to come with that. If you just have an opinion about something, but you don't come to the conclusion of why you have that opinion, then you're just talking. It's like, oh, I don't like him. Well, why you don't like him? Oh, because why? I just don't. Like, well, why? I don't know. I just don't. Yeah. You ever just felt like you don't like? No. I don't just feel like I just don't like something. No, I have to learn a little bit about it to say I don't like it. It's like, oh, you just don't like that. I don't like that color. That's different. You know what I'm saying? It's a color. It's not the same. It's like I don't have to give you an opinion about a color. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just something that's a flat surface. Your eyes, it's not appealing to your eyes now. If it comes to a person and their personality is different. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. It's a little bit different, but let's get it going.
You know, I just got to be aware of that and just deal with it. You know what I mean? It's just the curse. It's just the curse to be me.
So you believe the game? He's a better rapper and he make better music.
Listen, for me, I like that style. I like the style of how he rap. I like his vocal tone. You know what I mean? I like his vocal register, you know. And, you know, to keep it real, I never met Kendrick. I met The Game one time and he was mad.
That's my point, bro. I told you, yo. This is my point with these dudes, bro. I'm telling you, let them talk. Just let them talk and you'll get everything out of them. It's crazy as hell. You get everything out of them, man. Just let them talk. I met The Game, but I never met Kendrick. Okay. My point exactly, bro. It's crazy.
Cool. You know what I mean? We was in a club. He was at the height of his shit. Everybody was in the club surrounding this motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I seen him. I'm like, oh, you know, there go The Game over there. But I'm not one of these dudes that's gonna run over there. You know, everybody surrounded him. Why would I do that? But as he's being surrounded, he spots me, walks away from all these people, comes over to me and says, Fat Joe, he says, I know a legend when I see one, and gives me a pound. And I'm just like, wow. And I'm just thinking in my mind, now somebody taught that young man right. Somebody taught that.
That's that East Coast bias right there. So you favor The Game off of your biasness favors The Game because he acknowledged you as a legend. That's just it is what it is. This whole conversation is going to boil down to that. People are going to say you hating on Kendrick because The Game acknowledged you as a legend. And you threw a little jab at Fat Joe in there, which is wild. I don't understand why you and him are fighting. This doesn't make sense to me. Y'all both. I would say argumentatively, he did more for hip hop than you. I mean, let's be clear here. But y'all both are arguing about something that you can't really prove historically, and it's been borrowed all over the place from everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even want to get into that conversation. I'm just saying, like, humans are humans, bro. And it is what it is. But yeah, man, so I'm going to end it there, man. In fact, let me see what else he had to say, and then that's it.
Young man right. Because he gave respect where respect was due. And it just made me just have an instant respect for him right back. You know what I mean? So now fast forward, when you ask me a question like this, and it was crazy because LA people was almost jumping out against Game. Oh, Jason, he used to strip and all this type of shit. Listen, I don't, you know, yeah, I heard all that shit, but that's not part of my equation of why I said that I liked his music better. Like, you know what I mean? Like.
But you called Kendrick a nerdy rapper when The Game was doing things like stripping, bro. Like, what are you talking about? This is my point that I'm be making with these East Coast dudes. This is the type of things that they do. It's crazy as hell to me. You know what I'm saying? So you sum up the difference between the two. Obviously, if people are lashing, that's one thing people got to understand. If somebody's lashing out against you at something, you should try to do a little research of why. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's certain things that happened to me, and I know I said some things that people say, nah, bro, you need to learn about this, and I go learn about it, and I'll be like, damn, he was right. Then I'll come on and I'll say, yeah, you was right. He was right. But yeah, man, he's clearly biased, and that's the reason why. So. Yeah, man. Torture Talk After Hours. You know what it is. But he's clearly biased. He's a biased dude. It's sad. It's so sad to see a lot of East Coast dudes are like that. And they're East Coast dudes to me are I would say East Coast old head rappers, not all East Coast people are like this. Because I'm from the East Coast. A lot of these old head East Coast rappers, what it really is they hold on to nostalgia and they feel like they're the gatekeepers of hip hop. And no matter what coast you from, West, East, mid, South, whatever, South, Mid East, Midwest, anything you want to think of, they feel as though that they own the rights to hip hop, 100%. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now what's gonna be the next argument. The next argument is gonna be, well, who really made hip hop? You know what I'm saying? Not the fact that the Puerto Ricans had something to do with it, but who really made hip hop? Was it black people from the West Coast or black people from the East Coast? Like, what was it? What was the history of it? Like, that's coming too. Trust and believe, because everybody always having these infights. And but either way, man, Game is nowhere near as good as Kendrick. Let's just be clear here. It's not even. Game doesn't even have a classic album to me. Nowhere near as good as Kendrick. I don't care how you try to spin it, color it. No, absolutely not. Nowhere near. Can't even rap as good as Kendrick. You say, oh, Game got bars. Yeah, Game got bars, whatever. He's okay. Game's okay. If I had to put him in the top lyricists of let's say the top 25, he probably wouldn't be the top 25 of lyricists of all time. He's okay. He's just the gangster Drake. That's it to me. The Game is the gangster Drake. Just raps. That's it. Outside of that, no. It's not really super heavy like that. He said, I ride around like SpongeBob in a 6'4". He said, I know he said a bar before that, but that was a bar. I ride around like SpongeBob in a 6'4". He said, yeah, if I'm coming to get you or something like that, I ride around like SpongeBob in a 6'4". All right, bro. Enough of that. Either way, man, I'm out of here. See y'all after hours. All right, man.